Look at the modern man today. He is completely paralyzed by his own thoughts. Before making a single decision, he overanalyzes every possible outcome, obsesses over what other people will think, and drowns in endless anxiety. You sit in your room, perfectly safe, yet your heart is racing because your mind is fabricating fictional disasters that have not even happened. You are suffering entirely in your imagination. This chronic overthinking is the disease of the modern age. It makes you hesitant, cowardly, and entirely ineffective. But what if there was a psychological state where fear and hesitation were completely erased? A state where you operate with absolute, lethal instinct? This state is the absolute pinnacle of human performance. It is the secret weapon that separates the untouchable elite from the anxious masses. Today, we will explore the terrifying philosophy of the greatest swordsman in human history, and discover the ultimate power of no mind. To understand this concept, you must first meet the man who perfected it. Miyamoto Musashi was not just a warrior, he was an absolute force of nature. Living in 17th century Japan, Musashi fought in 61 lethal, life-or-death duels, and he remained entirely undefeated. He fought against multiple attackers simultaneously, faced the greatest martial arts masters of his era, and walked away from every single encounter covered in blood but always victorious. He did not rely on fancy techniques or expensive armor. His ultimate weapon was his mind. Towards the end of his brutal life, he retreated to a remote, dark cave to write the Book of Five Rings, a legendary manual on strategy, philosophy, and survival. The core foundation of Musashi's invincibility was not physical speed or muscular strength. It was a terrifying psychological state known as Mushin. Mushin, translated literally, means no mind, or the state of no mind. This is not about emptying your brain to become a mindless idiot. It is the absolute absence of anger, fear, ego, and conscious calculation. When Musashi stepped into a bloody sword fight, he did not actively think about how to swing his blade. He did not think about the terrifying reputation of his opponent. And he certainly did not think about the possibility of his own death. His mind was entirely silent. In this state of no mind, the physical body automatically reacts far faster than conscious thought can possibly process. The harsh reality is this: when you think, you hesitate. When you hesitate, you die. When you operate in Mushin, you bypass thought entirely and become a pure, unobstructed flow of destruction. Musashi explicitly warned against the lethal danger of overthinking. He wrote that if you focus your attention solely on your opponent's sword, your mind is captured by that sword. If you focus solely on protecting your own life, your mind is immediately paralyzed by the fear of death. Whenever your conscious mind becomes stuck or fixated on one single detail, you become entirely blind to the larger picture. For a samurai warrior, getting stuck in conscious thought meant having your head separated from your body. The human conscious brain is simply far too slow to survive in extreme, high-stakes environments. Rational calculation is the absolute enemy of lightning-fast reflex. In order to unleash your ultimate potential, you must completely stop trying to control every single variable with your conscious mind. Let us apply this brutal philosophy to your pathetic modern existence. You suffer from a severe disease called paralysis by analysis. You want to start a new business, so you waste 6 months reading books, drawing up complex plans, overthinking the color of your logo, and obsessing over the fear of bankruptcy. In the end, you take zero action. You want to approach a beautiful woman, but your brain instantly fabricates a terrifying scenario of rejection, turning your legs to solid stone. You have lost the war before it even began. Overanalysis is simply how cowardice brilliantly disguises itself as intelligence. You arrogant fool, you think you are preparing, but in reality, you are just hiding from stepping into the brutal arena. In ancient martial arts, the mind must behave exactly like water. Pure water has no fixed shape. If you pour it into a cup, it seamlessly becomes the cup. When a flowing river encounters a massive rock in its path, it does not stop to analyze the rock or complain about the obstacle, it simply flows around it with effortless instinct. If your mind is like ice, frozen solid by anxiety or rigidly stuck on a single obsessive thought, it can easily be smashed to pieces. A man who possesses a mind like water adapts to any sudden crisis automatically. He does not complain when his business plan fails. He does not panic when his enemies backstab him. He simply changes shape, adapts, and continues moving forward with ruthless momentum. The absolute core reason why you constantly overthink everything is because your fragile ego is far too massive. You are completely obsessed with protecting your own self-image. You are terrified of looking foolish in front of other people. You are terrified that failure will scratch your pathetic self-esteem. Musashi did not care about looking glorious or honorable. In one of his most famous duels, he intentionally arrived late to anger his opponent, and then used a crudely carved wooden boat or to smash the man's skull, instead of using a prestigious katana sword. He had completely discarded his ego. He only cared about absolute, lethal efficiency. When you ruthlessly murder your own ego, you suddenly have nothing left to protect. Your fear completely vanishes, and the state of Mushin emerges automatically. So, how exactly do you achieve this godlike state of mind? You cannot simply sit on a cushion, meditate, and pray for it to arrive. Mushin is the direct result of violent, relentless physical repetition. Musashi swung his heavy wooden sword tens of thousands of times every single day, working in the dark until the movement was permanently burned into his bone marrow. Extreme, punishing discipline is the only key. When you execute a specific task 10,000 times in the dark, you do not have to consciously think about it on the 10,001st attempt. It becomes an unconditional, biological reflex. Do you want to stop feeling anxious in your business? Then put in the agonizing hours every single day until your raw skill completely eclipses your fear. An empty mind only arrives when the body has been forged to absolute perfection. It is time for you to stop planning your life like a coward. Stop endlessly reading self-help books without actually applying a single word of the knowledge. You must forcefully push yourself into a state of pure, brutal execution. When your alarm violently rings at 5 in the morning, do not lie in your warm bed analyzing whether you feel like getting up or not. Throw the blanket off immediately. No mind. When you have to make a terrifying cold call to a wealthy client, do not think about the possibility of rejection. Pick up the phone. No mind. You must brutally sever all the weak, pathetic internal dialogue that is currently holding you back. The empty gap of time between your thought and your action is the exact breeding ground for fear. You must choke out that gap completely. A man who successfully masters the state of Mushin is a man who possesses absolute freedom. He is no longer bound by the dark ghosts of his past, nor is he paralyzed by the terrifying illusions of his future. He does not desperately crave victory, and he absolutely does not fear defeat. He simply executes his mission with the chilling, calculating precision of a machine. Modern society is entirely powerless to manipulate a man who harbors zero anxiety. You have a choice. You can continue to live as a pathetic slave to your own overactive, anxious thoughts, or you can ruthlessly murder that garbage mind and become a samurai of the new age. Take action right now. Stop thinking.